Hello and welcome to the 6th edition, coming to you live from our studios in Abuja. I'm Neota Igbe. Our top stories. The federal government sues El-Rufai over NSA phone tapping claims. Occupy NASS demonstration over e-transmission of results continues in Abuja. And aviation workers disrupt operations at Kenya International Airport. Details in a moment. Former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai was at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission headquarters in Abuja. His appearance comes amid growing public reactions and protests over allegations of financial misappropriation during his administration in Kaduna State. News Central's Aisha Salihu reports that while both protesters and supporters gathered at the commission's headquarters early on Monday morning, the group in support of the former governor was dispersed by security operatives with tear gas canisters.
Before heading to the EFCC headquarters, Nasir El-Rufai was seen at his residence alongside close associates and supporters observing prayers. But protesters under the Mega National Movement for Good Governance staged a demonstration at the headquarters of the EFCC in Abuja, calling on the commission to ensure that the former governor is held accountable and prosecuted over alleged financial misappropriation during his time in office. The group also urged the EFCC to strictly adhere to due process and not allow what they described as attempts to politicize the investigative process.
That the ongoing persecution of former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai remain a lawful and unconstitutional matter strictly between him and the government of Kaduna State. This issue must not be reduced to political drama or emotional manipulation. It is a question of accountability and stewardship of public trust.
I can assure you that as far as the EFCC is concerned, the right thing will be done, our processes and procedures will be followed, and Nigerian will see that we have actually acquitted ourselves very well concerning this issue.
In a related development, supporters of the former governor also assembled at the EFCC headquarters in solidarity. However, security operatives on ground dispersed the gathering using tear gas canisters, with journalists facing harassment as authorities moved to clear the area.
They allowed some thugs that were sent by Obasani, the governor of Kaduna State, to come and make nonsense here. They allowed them access, but they deny the people of Nigeria, the masses that sponsor themselves. Each and every 3,000, I said, they sponsor themselves to Abuja.
As of the time of filing this report, the EFCC has not issued any official statement detailing the nature of its engagement with the former governor. Tension, however, remains high around the Commission's headquarters, with security presence significantly reinforced. In Abuja, for News Central, Aisha Salihu.
Let's say that we've reached out to the EFCC hoping to get a formal response to the situation as regards the harassment of the journalist and why they had to disperse the crowds, but we're yet to hear from them. Hopefully we would before today runs out. But I'm being joined by Aisha Salihu from our newsroom to give us details of exactly what transpired out there. Aisha, how are you doing?
Well, I guess I'm fine now.
Okay, it's good to know you're much better. Okay, so just tell us what exactly transpired. I mean, you reported indeed that different groups had gathered, some earlier, some for and some against the arrest or seeming questioning of the former governor of Kaduna State. But then the tear gas, what exactly led to the dispersal of tear gas in that space?
Well, Neota, I think it's important to note that today, press freedom, again, has not taken its full course in Nigeria. I mean, you can imagine officials of the EFCC perpetuating this act. I mean, we're right in front of their office earlier today whilst we were covering what was going on the ground. And we noticed that the protesters who were against the former governor of Kaduna State, they were allowed to protest peacefully and they made their way out of the area. But as soon as the former governor of Kaduna State made his way into the premises alongside his supporters and other members who were supposed to accompany him, there was a little bit of, there was some force deployed by these officials saying that they cannot, stand in front of the headquarters of the EFCC to, support the former governor. And whilst they were dispersed using tear gas canisters, even journalists, myself and my camera operator, were actually also affected when our camera and our live view equipment at the time was seized. And later, when we put a call through to the officials inside the EFCC office, they handed over to us without explaining to us why they seized it. The only thing we heard was they didn't know we were media. They decided to just, snatch our equipment from us.
I'm sorry, but they didn't know you were media.
Right.
They didn't
Even
know
after
you had your ID cards.
After we presented our ID cards with our uniform and everything, and then we moved over from there to get sight of the supporters of the former governor of Kaduna State, and this was completely away from the premises or even outside of the headquarters of the EFCC. We moved over down to far away to the roadside, but then we still saw officers from the security unit of the EFCC dispersing these supporters and also deploying tear gas canisters on these supporters, and myself and the camera operator and other journalists that were there, and even passengers that were passing, because it's a major road. Even you could see in the visuals, even passengers passing through that area, they were unruly, completely extrajudicial. It was unexpected, unprecedented. We were wondering what was going on. Their activities were not disrupted in any way, form, or manner, but they decided to do what they did, and I would call it total harassment of both members of the public and even especially the media.
So I'm just hope, as I said earlier, we do hope that we'll hear from the EFCC why they had to ask. They didn't not ask the journalists to leave. They actually used tear gas to send the journalists away from that from the area of the EFCC headquarters. Even as Aisha has reported, they had to go across the road to the major road, and the policemen or the police on the EFCC security team still came out there to disperse them using tear gas. But Aisha, did you, when the equipment were handed back to you, was any explanation given? I just want you to clear that. Did they give you any explanation why they had to take your equipment, and seeing that you were actually, you were about to go live at that time when they came to take the equipment? Did they explain anything to you?
Right. I'll just allude this to overzealousness of the officers that were there presently at the time, because it was completely uncalled for, unnecessary for what they did. And the only explanation they gave, as I said earlier, was that they didn't know that we were media, even after we identified ourselves as independent media covering events on ground. But then what happened. And even afterwards, something more terrible happened after what happened in front of their office. Whilst we moved to the major road, another level of harassment happened to us.
Another level of harassment after you left the in front of the premises. Well, it's all right. Aisha, thank you so much. It's good to see that you're back and you were not injured in any way. But thank you. Thank you for your reportage. Well, I'm being joined in the studio here by Ibrahim Sanusi, a member of the El-Rufai media team. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I saw you in that footage where you were practically shouting. Why were you shouting in the footage?
Actually, it was reactive, in the sense that today I saw something that I've never experienced in my life. I've seen women being treated like criminals. These women were students, some of them were workers, some of them were professionals. And just because they want to come out and show their support to Nasir El-Rufai, who the current APC government in Abuja and Kaduna hate so much, and they decide to shut everything down.
Are you not being speculative? You said they hate him so much.
So,
I mean, if he said if he was invited to the EFCC to answer questions, is that a product of hate?
okay, like I told you earlier, this current government slowly turning into tyrant, and it's very unfortunate. If you look at the political landscape, we have a lot of former governors, we have a lot of former ministers who have petitions, a lot of petitions with EFCC or ICPC against them. And just because they belong to the ruling party, none of them is being treated the way they are treating Malam Nasir El-Rufai. I don't want to mention them, but Nigerians know this. We have more than 8 high-level individuals, former governors. Some of them were even sitting senators.
So let me ask. Let's clarify here. When the former governor got to the EFCC, was he harassed?
So
was he manhandled?
No, actually, Malam Nasir El-Rufai is a former governor, and to some extent, both the government and the EFCC, they are afraid of him and they are scared of him. So they won't do that to him. So they think people like me and a lot of ladies that we went there with are vulnerable. So they think that they can treat us that way. So, and I want to assure you that what they did today will not go unanswered. We have started making calls across all the nation, and particularly Northwest. Today, we decide to come out in a manageable number so that we will not distract passengers passing through that area. That's why we just say, let's go in small numbers, about 2,000 to 3,000 people. But since EFCC and the APC government want to start treating us this way, I assure you the next time we are coming back to Abuja, we are coming back with 1 million people.
It's okay, but I do hope that you'll not be disrupting the peace when you come back.
Already the government are disrupting the peace. The economy is bad. A lot of things are going wrong. Instead of them to focus on fixing things, they are taking their fight to El-Rufai.
All right. Thank you so much, Ibrahim Sanusi, member of the El-Rufai team. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
We'll go on a quick break. When we return, I will be joined for the legal side of this whole matter by a legal practitioner and director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Dr. Sam Omadi. To stay with us. Welcome back. To look at the legal side of this whole matter, I'm joined by Dr. Sam Omadi, legal practitioner and director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Dr. Omadi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So real quick, we have this situation here. The former governor of Kaduna State is at the EFCC, and next thing we're seeing is tear gas everywhere. Does he really have a question to answer? And is it necessary to have tear gas being thrown out by the security operatives to disperse crowds around there?
Well, whether it's necessary, not really. I mean, it depends on tear gas is, of course, a car control, used for car control in very extreme cases, depending on the nature of the chaos or the righteous nature of any gathering. So most of Nigeria, it has become a first reaction to crowd. So not just the FCC, we see even protests. Sometimes protesters are tear gassed unnecessarily. So that's the point. Again, legally speaking, the point is that the EFCC, like any other government institution, not even known security organizations, have a right to protect facility. Ordinarily, the right to protest is also guaranteed. So you would expect that protests will be peaceful, orderly, and then there will be areas where protesters cannot, cross. Maybe the EFCC would have demarcated, would have, ruled out some areas, especially their facility. Actually, they will not like to enter inside the place and protest. So if they have a proper delineation of where to protest and peacefully, orderly face where protesters should not cross. Then also peaceful protests require protesters to keep to that compact. So, okay, fine, we can protest. Because again, law enforcement, they ought not to be overawed. They ought not to be intimidated. So over the world, there's a certain hysteria around law enforcement and also certain politics, whether in the US or Nigeria, elsewhere, around law enforcement, especially of high-profile maybe politicians or high-profile citizens, or in cases that are controversial. So you would expect the kind of show of force on both sides, on those who want to protest against Madam El-Rufai, those who came to support him. Okay. But what's expected of the EFCC is to ensure that they do not infringe the right of citizens, especially the media that sees cameras.
In this case, from the report our colleague put out there, they actually seized their equipment and disrupted a live transmission of the occurrences of both sides. Anyway, but the question I would like to ask you before we let you go is this matter of phone tapping. I mean, that conversation where the former governor allegedly claimed to have tapped into the conversations of the NSA. What level of legal implications does that have?
Well, two things. If you look at the charges already brought before the court against him, two of them relates to the cybercrime law, which has some kind of specific provisions. One of them talks generally in terms of using any technology to tap into conversations, wiretapping. Now, from the clips of the interview I have seen, I watched the interview, he didn't claim to have himself tapped it, but the narratives would suggest that whoever tapped, he was in communication with whoever tapped, or whoever tapped later briefed him. So in two ways. Lawyers first, there's a question around the formality of this trial, in the sense that it said DSS and the Security Act talk about the SSS. Of course, there has been executive order from the decrees then by the military administration to allow them use DSS as official name or a trading name, but the name they actually be SSS. So there's some kind of procedural challenge on that. But substantively, the argument will be: did he wiretap, or did he conspire with someone to do that directly, or somebody did it and came to him? I got information. That's number one. Number two would be a case. The third charge is on the NCC law, and that relates to conniving or accessory after the fact. Somebody did it, you covered the person up. So would the fact that he knew and not disclosed constitute a liability or some facts that suggest some kind of conspiracy? It's not an open and closed case. It's going to be a lot of factual narratives matched to law, but many are the opinion that maybe it'd be a difficult thing for the state to convict him on those charges. He could actually say he lied on television, and then the question would not be that he might be compelled, depending on the procedures, to disclose who told him, even if he was not himself involved in the alleged act. So, interesting case ahead, but not frivolous at all. It has a lot of merit on the face of it, but also with quite a lot of evidence and link between whoever did what with him as either an interested, involved, passive, or active participant. If it's so passive, just heard about it and believed it, whether it's true or false, that may not amount to sufficient evidence of complicity.
Dr. Amadi, in 30 seconds, how easy is it to tap the phone of the NSA, considered one of the highest levels of security in the country?
That's part of why people say maybe this is El-Rufai blustered. I mean, it himself to trouble. I would argue that it would be very difficult to tap into the conversation or the phone, except somebody within that precinct had reported what the NSA allegedly said. And it may not be a case of tapping, but a case of bluffing and busting into some problem now.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Sam Amadi, legal practitioner and director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you.
In the meantime, the Office of the National Security Advisor has asked the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, to submit any evidence he has regarding the alleged procurement of a toxic chemical to the Department of State Services for investigation. In a letter signed on behalf of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, the Office of the National Security Advisor denied procuring about 10 kilograms of thallium sulfate from Poland and said it had no involvement in any such transaction. The office described the allegation as unfounded, but confirmed that the matter has been formally referred to the DSS for a comprehensive probe. ONSA added that El-Rufai would be invited to provide evidence to assist the investigations. The development follows claims by El-Rufai that he had access to an intercepted phone conversation allegedly involving the NSA. Away from the NSA and to other matters, protesters have returned to the gates of the National Assembly to resume the Occupy NASS demonstration, demanding the mandatory electronic transmission of election results. The demonstrators are insisting that the real-time clause be explicitly included in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill to ensure transparency in future polls. They maintain that the current version passed by the Senate leaves too much room for manual interference. The atmosphere at the National Assembly complex remains charged as civil society groups and concerned citizens vow to remain until their demands are met.
We stand with the House of Representatives on real-time electronic transmission of the results. Mandatory. Without any condition, no clause. We have done it in the past and we got up to 94% without it being mandatory.
The mapping done shows us that 98% of the locality are covered. So this is enough, to counter whichever internet network infrastructure argument put forward by either the Senate or any other entity.
This current government, they have every institution at their beck and call. They have more than 30 governors. They have the entire National Assembly, judiciary, police, DSS, civil defense, city guests, city guys, city everything, city thugs, everything they have. Why should anybody be afraid of free and fair election? That is why we have come to say their time is up.
We must correct that narrative whereby the people in power will know that the people that voted them into power are the real people. We want a Nigeria that works for everybody.
We are demanding that the original INEC guideline that the House of Rep had worked on should be implemented. We do not need space for bots. The space for bots will breed manipulations.
The National Assembly is changing its face for Nigerians to know that once you come here, we're going to listen to you. Everyone has a right, has a voice, has the right to be able to engage with the National Assembly. We would always listen to you. So the agitations that they've had, we've listened and we said they should trust that the joint House and Senate committee is going to act in the best interest of Nigeria.
Well, to discuss and look at this protest is Idris Zachary, a political activist and public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us, Zach.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always an absolute delight to be here.
Okay, so you were back at the National Assembly,
yes,
and again, the demand for that clause to be inclusive. Do you think your voices will be heard?
It will be, because the National Assembly has no choice. Like one of the conversants made very clear, the power in the people is greater than the people in power. I was here, we were here, because we have some of our people even outside in the lobby. We were here about a week ago to demand for mandatory electronic transmission of results in real time. And Senate President Godswill Akpabio, for media correctness, and his 108 friends in the Senate, passed it mandatorily and then included a clause. I always say the Nicodemusly and Judas Iscariotly included a clause, but when there is no network, or where there is no network, you will now go back to manual transmission. I guarantee you, so help me God, with that small line they put there, on election day, there will be no network in Nigeria. We have seen it because we are smarter than them. We that elected them, that put them there, they are being funded by taxpayers' money. They are being funded by my money and yours. I'm not so sure of yours, but I am sure of mine because I pay taxes. They are being funded. They must listen to us. And we are insisting that there will be mandatory electronic transmission of results in real time.
But do you think that is enough for a transparent and credible election?
It is a first step towards progress. It is a first step towards having an election that we can be proud of. Look at the numbers. Less than 25 to 30% of registered Nigerians to vote actually vote in the elections. That shows you a complete loss of confidence in our democratic process. One of the things that we rekindle this confidence is that real-time electronic transmission of results, because by 4 p.m. on election day, you can already tell who is the winner of the election if we had such arrangement in place. It has happened before. We had it in Edo 2020, and we have had it in other off-cycle elections. In fact, we had it in 2023, but there was now the infamous word glitch that none of us have been able to explain 3 years down the line. What we are now saying, even INEC by themselves agreed that they would do it and said they have done their research. Up to 96% of the nooks and crannies. Let me use the language that our people like to understand. Of the nooks and crannies of Nigeria is covered by internet network. And even where there is redundancy, they had also made provisions for that. What the Senate is doing is attempting to take us back to 2003 and 2007, the disgraceful election of that era.
If this clause is included, the infamous glitch, as you put it, will now occur in this.
It will now have legal consequences. Because when we went to court the last time to seek interpretation of what glitch is, we were told that whereas it was put there, the INEC can determine the mode they can use to transmit election, it was not expressly stated in the Electoral Act. As such, INEC can decide what to do and what not to do. And for that reason, the election result stands. But when we have it there, put in the laws and established, it now becomes litigable or justiciable, whichever one the lawyers think is appropriate for the circumstance. And then to now carry legal consequences when INEC don't do the right thing. So that is a first step in the many steps to rescue our country from. We will not let our country slide into a despotic regime that does not listen to the citizens. We will never let a situation happen where people will sit in their offices in Abuja and try to determine the fate of somebody who lives in the fringe town or in Okpela, in Igara, who lives somewhere in Okoto Ekpene. Nigeria is for all of us, and they must listen to it. And like I always say, if at this time you are still scared of free and fair election, you have 1 year. This is February. By February next year, we have an election. Go back to your village and work. Don't sit in Abuja and attempt to bypass the electoral process by passing laws. You see, like in my state, Edo State, I give you a classical example of some of the arrogance we see in the midst of these people. In my state, Edo State, they've been boasting that they will give 2.5 million votes. They even increased it recently to 3.5 million votes, whereas the total number of registered voters is 2,250,000. People are hoping to manufacture votes from thin air because they believe that they can write election result on election day. We are letting them know that this country belongs to all of us and it will not happen.
Mr. Idris Zekri, thank you so much.
Thank you for the
activist and public affairs commentator. Thank you for coming in this evening. But just to know that people will still be registering. Continual voter registration exercise is still on. So more people will register before the election.
We hope, and we are encouraging it to happen because we need everybody to participate this time.
Indeed. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll take a moment and when we'll come back, the special seats bill. How far? What's up? We'll give you details in a moment. So stay with us. Welcome back. A coalition of women groups has taken to solidarity work to the National Assembly in Abuja, demanding for the quick passage of a special seats for women bill that seeks additional seats for women in parliament. The group says that the bill would seek 72 additional seats at the national level and 108 across the 36 state houses of assembly will help cure the years of imbalance in gender representation. Our correspondent Idong Joseph was at the scene and brings us this report.
At the main entrance of the National Assembly, women's group and supporters gathered to press home their demands, which is the speedy passage of the Special Seats Bill, a proposed legislation designed to create additional legislative seats for women at the federal and state levels.
Women's representation is a right. It is not a privilege. We should not be begging for it. We should not be asking for it. It is something that should be given to us.
With only 14 women in the 360 members of the House of Representatives and 4 in the 109-member Senate, Nigeria currently has one of the lowest number of female representation in Africa's parliaments. Advocates say decisions on issues that concerns women are being made by men rather than women who understand their challenges.
You know, when we say women's rights are human rights, it's because we know that anything that affects a mother, if a mother has 5 children and anything affects her, if something happens to her and she dies, the 5 children will suffer.
In fact, women, we are more than half of the nation, so we cannot afford to be left aside.
They say that the Special Seats Bill should be given the same consideration as the Electoral Amendments Act bill.
But as important as the Electoral Act is, the Special Seat Bill is also that important. We are asking them at this time that the way they raised the Electoral Act bill to decide on it now is the same way they should, as a matter of urgency, bring up the Special Seat Bill.
According to the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, constitutional amendment bills, including the reserved seat proposal, are expected to be voted electronically, allowing public scrutiny on how each lawmaker votes.
In December, we tested the technology to make sure that it was well functional, because we want to make sure that everybody bears his or her father's name. You will know how every member and how every senator has voted. You know.
While 5 bills that seek to promote women's rights were rejected in 2022 by the National Assembly, the women are optimistic that with the support that the Special Seat and other women bills have received, they will scale through before the end of the current assembly. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
And now being joined by Irene Awunaike, President, League of Women Voters of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us, Irene.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. We saw you out there. As you said, you were here last week and you said you'll be doing this.
Yes.
Well, it's good to see you again. But I'm just a bit so just clear this confusion here.
Yes.
You're weighing special seats bill for women.
Yeah.
But then there is another conversation about reserved seats for women.
Okay.
What exactly are you asking for? Special seats or reserved seats?
Okay, we are asking for special seats.
What makes the seats special? You still contest elections.
Yes, we will still contest election, but there are additional seats. So when you say reserved seats, you are saying that the statutory seats that of 360 and 109, you are reserving some for women, which is not what we are asking for. So the framing and the name of the bill that is in National Assembly right now is Special Seats Bill for Women. It is not reserved seats bill for women. So, and we've had this conversation, over and over, trying to, clear the air so that especially the legislators, when you say reserved seats, they are apprehensive. Whose seats do you want to reserve for women? But if you say special seats, we are asking for additional seats.
So you're adding what you're asking for.
It's
360 and 109.
Yeah,
is what is statutory.
They are statutory.
So
then we are asking for one House of Rep member, female only, per state, and then one House of Assembly, the 3 senatorial zones in the state. That makes it 3 House of Assembly members in the state. And then, of course, the initial proposal was 1 Senate per state. But what the Senate has agreed to offer us is 1 per geopolitical zone. And it means that for North Central, where I come from, for instance, if I have to contest, for that seat, it has to be 1 state in the North Central. But I also want to emphasize that it doesn't mean that I will run and campaign in all the states in the North Central. No. I will only campaign in my state, and I'll be voted by only the people in my state. And of course, I will be campaigning with other women until our various political parties will now give us nominations to go to the ballot and run on the special seat.
So that means...
So the other processes are going to be
So if
same.
the Senate is saying they're going to give, instead of giving 1 per state, they're going to give 1 per geopolitical zone.
So entirely, it
that
will be
means
6.
That geopolitical zone has to sit down and say, okay, for this...
Yes, this is the state that will produce this.
So maybe for the 11th Assembly, it will be Plateau State.
Absolutely.
For the 12th Assembly, it will be...
It may also be alphabetically, so it will start from Benue.
Okay, but real nice. But the question some would ask is, why do we even need the special seats?
Okay, it is because of the long exclusion of women in parliament, and the numbers now are very abysmal low. And Nigeria is not the first country that is doing this.
Are women being, you said, are they being excluded?
Yeah, they're being excluded from party primaries. The issue of special seats is actually not even about capacity of women who run for elections. It is about women getting to the ballots. It has been an issue in Nigeria that we've been trying so much to see that we have women on the ballots. Unfortunately, the political parties lack the internal democracy to put women on the ballots. They have put in place certain ways and hurdles to ensure that women don't get to the ballots. They range from the money they ask from women or aspirants to fund their political party, to godfatherism, to gender-based violence, a lot of that. And then sometimes for me, because I'm also a very good politician as well. So I know that from the grassroots to the state level, you only have the woman leader as among the states or among the ESCOs who have the statutory, which we call automatic votes as delegates. So those are the people who vote for who becomes the governor, who becomes the House of Rep member, who becomes the senator in their various political parties. And then if you have only women, out of 15 people, you have one woman, as those who will vote. You can imagine how many women will be in that race. So first and foremost, we don't even have women.
So shouldn't this campaign be to the political parties and not to the nationals?
So all the political parties have it in their various documents that they will give 35%, to a leadership position within their political parties to women, but they don't do it.
Right.
And of course, because it is not a constitutional, thing, it is their own internal policy. You cannot even hold them accountable until we have a law that says that any political party that does not have a certain number of women on the ballots, they will either be deregistered or not be allowed to produce candidates. And that's where we are heading with the special seats bill. We think that once it is constitutional, there will be a penalty, and that penalty will make political parties to sit up.
Right.
Nigeria is suffering a lot. The image we have out there is very poor, and then our democracy is not truly inclusive. It is a democracy that excludes more than 50% of its population and its voting population, which is very paramount. I think that Nigerian women are now aware that they are the numbers, and that's why we are not demanding. We have been advocating for this for long. For we think that this is not tokenism. They are not doing us a favor. They are just trying to ensure that half of the population is in the room where key decisions concerning the whole population of the country are being taken.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. We've been speaking with Irene Awuna-Ikie, President, League of Women Voters of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
And we hope that this bill will be passed real quick. Well, stakeholders are urging victims of domestic violence and other forms of abuse to break the culture of silence and be courageous and speak out so that justice can be served. This was made in Abuja at a conference aimed at amplifying voices for nation building, promoting inclusion and advancing efforts to eradicate violence against women. Participants emphasized the need for victims to identify factors that silence them and to break the cycle of fear and intimidation that often prevents them from seeking justice.
While there is no guarantee that speaking up would give you justice, or that justice will be served when you speak up, the truth is there is no way you will get justice unless you speak for people to know what you're going through and what's happening.
Today I stand before you as a living testimony that silence is not our destiny. My journey from pain to purpose was not easy. It was never meant to be walked alone. It was shaped by resilience, by grace, by the undeniable truth that when women are supported, they rise. And when they rise, entire communities are transformed.
So for our special seats, please, I urge all of you, don't give up the battle. Let's still work on it. We still have a little time. I've always said we should target the legislators. We should meet them at the caucus level and talk to them. Until very recently, the Southeast was very supportive. Then suddenly I started seeing some of them saying, I wait here for me, they go contest with us. So, and I tell you, I've told them they should talk to people, for brothers from the Southeast. They have a lot to gain. from the special seats.
We'll take a moment. When we return, aviation workers in Kenya disrupting travels. We'll bring you details in a moment. A strike by aviation workers disrupted flights and air traffic control operations at the Kenya's main airport on Monday, causing delays and uncertainty for passengers across the country. Kenya Airways warned travelers of possible schedule adjustments and advised them to confirm flight status before heading to the airport, citing operational delays at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, one of Africa's busiest aviation hubs. The action follows a notice issued last week by the Kenya Aviation Workers Union over unresolved grievances, including stored employment negotiations. The union had threatened a total shutdown of Kenyan airspace if demands were not addressed. Passengers reported being stranded on board aircraft at terminals, while operations at other airports, including Kisumu Airport, were also affected. Kenyan Senator Bonnie Kwale says that travelers had been stuck for hours. South Africa has launched a 10-year campaign to vaccinate nearly 20 million cattle against foot and mouth disease as the fast-spreading outbreak continues to affect herds nationwide. The highly contagious virus affects cattle, sheep, and goats, causing fever and painful blisters, although it poses no risk to humans. Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says the outbreak has spread to 8 provinces since 2021, dealing a heavy financial blow to farmers. Vaccines will be sourced from Argentina, Turkey, and Botswana, while local production is scaled up. China has suspended beef imports over foot and mouth disease concerns.
We're hoping now with the declaration of the state of disaster, we will be able to see roadblocks. We'll be able to get assistance from the SAPS, SANDF, Metro Police and the like to be able to come and assist us with those movement controls. Vaccination is just one part of the strategy. It has to be followed by strict surveillance and movement control as part of a toolbox of things that are used to stop the spread of it. For the first time in 30 years, we now have a strategy to get us to be foot and mouth free. The first part of that strategy is to get on top of this current crisis and vaccinate at scale. 80% of the national herd by December, 70% reduction in outbreak. Thereafter, we will continue to vaccinate, and then we will stop vaccinating in certain areas, and then apply to the World Organization of Animal Health for FMD-free status with vaccination.
Usually you see the wounds, very fresh wounds, bleeding, sores, and they salivate a lot because the lesions are in the mouth, and followed by in the foot. So in between the foot in there, that's where you find lesions also. So many of them, you see them struggling to walk because of the pain coming from the foot there. Those are the primary points where you get the virus.
Russia says its forces have taken control of multiple villages in eastern Ukraine in fresh battlefield gains this month. Army Chief Valery Gerasimov says during a visit to frontline, saying Russian forces captured 12 settlements within the first 2 weeks of February. The Russian Defense Ministry said the advance was carried out despite harsh winter conditions, describing the operations as coordinated efforts by joint military units. The Ukrainian authorities have yet to respond publicly as fighting continues across the Eastern Front, with both sides reporting ongoing clashes and shifting territorial control.
Продолжается выполнение задач специальной военной операции. Наступление ведется на всех направлениях. Противник. За 2 недели февраля, несмотря на суровые зимние условия, соединениями и воинскими частями объединенной группировки войск освобождено 12 населенных пунктов. Под наш контроль перешло более 200 квадратных километров территории. На других направлениях группировка войск «Север» продолжает расширение полосы безопасности в приграничных районах Сумской и Харьковской областей. Войска южной группировки продвигаются в направлении Славянска.
Iran says it is open to compromises to revive its nuclear agreement with the United States, provided sanctions relief is discussed. Deputy Foreign Minister Majid Takht Ravanchi told reporters in Tehran that the next steps depend on Washington's willingness to negotiate. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the deal as challenging, though President Donald Trump favors diplomacy. Talks between Iran and the United States continue following recent meetings in Oman, with another round expected in Geneva. Tehran has signaled willingness to limit uranium enrichment, but insists sanctions must be addressed before its final agreement. Liberia expects its iron ore production to nearly triple to 30 million tons following expansion plans by ArcelorMittal, the government says. The increase will come as current mining operations are scaled up and new infrastructure is deployed, boosting export volumes and foreign exchange earnings. Officials say expanded output will support job creation and strengthen the mining sector's contribution to the national GDP. The investments in Liberia reflects demand for raw materials and investor confidence in the country's mineral potential, even amid broader market volatility in global steel markets. And that's it for the 6th edition. Before we go, let's look at our headlines again. We told you that the federal government is suing El-Rufai over the NSA phone tapping claims. Also, that Occupy NASS demonstration over e-transmission of results continued in Abuja. We also told you that aviation workers in Kenya have disrupted operations at the airports. Let's hear from you. Send your eyewitness report and comments to the WhatsApp number on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV on all the social media platforms. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Nel Tagwe. I'll see you again tomorrow.